But I want to look at Indigenous issues now. I'm going to catch up with Jacinta Price, who joins us from Alice Springs. Good to talk to you again, Jacinta. When we talk about a national voice for Indigenous people, I've got to declare that I'm on the government's co-design advisory committee, as you know, and you and I have talked about this before. We have different perspectives on it, I suppose. But the interesting thing is that there's this discussion paper out, a route to have a national voice for Indigenous Australians. There's some public forums happening among particularly Indigenous communities to see if they like it. And the first ones we read today that occurred in Sydney, there's been a pushback saying it's not good enough. It needs to be, if there's going to be a voice, it needs to be in the Constitution rather than legislated. Are you worried that this reform, if you like, this proposal will get lost because people push for too much?
Well, as you mentioned, you and I have got different views about the voice, and I personally don't support the idea of the voice, because I feel like we have enough parliamentary representation of Indigenous people. But I also don't like the idea that we're a separate entity to the rest of Australia. I think we should be treated just like other Australians, and that just our leaders should probably listen to the less common voices, if you like, when it comes to dealing with a lot of our issues. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that there are those who have a different expectation about what they think the voice is about. And I know that there's been some momentum building with some particularly sort of activist groups about ensuring that the voice is enshrined in the Constitution. And it is a little bit concerning. I don't believe, if a model is brought forward, the idea of it being legislated provides opportunity for changes to be made, should that be the case down the line. And, we've attempted things like, a voice, if you like, in terms of ATSIC back in the day, which that particular model failed. And I guess it's a little bit like socialism, show me where it has worked in the past, and I'll get behind and support it where it's been effective. But I just don't know that. I certainly don't believe that something like this should be constitutionally enshrined. There always needs to be the opportunity that if something like this does not work, it should be changed or possibly even abolished if need be. And constitutionally enshrining it doesn't offer that opportunity. And I also feel as though when it comes to a lot of Indigenous issues and organisations and bodies that are supposed to represent Indigenous voices, where they have gone wrong, I don't know that there has been where people have been held to account for those sorts of failures. So I don't personally have much faith in the process going forward, I guess, and I'm certainly I know that there will be lots of different ideas about what the voice should look like coming from all over the place, because again, we are all individuals with our own thoughts and ways that we think, steps should go forward. So I don't know that we're going to reach a point where we can all agree on a model, and then we've got to take that to the Australian public. If people want it to be constitutionally enshrined, well, that's for the Australian public to determine, and I don't know whether there is that much confidence in the Australian public to do something like that.
When you talk about ATSIC, I think one of the reasons that went off course is because it was service delivery. There was a lot of money funnelled out through ATSIC, and therefore it became corrupted. What's being talked about now is really a way of getting representation, getting feedback from Indigenous communities, and where we would agree, whether we agree with the process or not, in the end, if you can get grassroots Indigenous Australians having direct feedback on the issues that matter to them, that can only be a good thing for reform and improvement. So it seems to me an argument about whether it's in the Constitution or not is kind of off point. Shouldn't you be looking about whether or not you can get good grassroots representation?
Well, grassroots representation is absolutely vital to moving forward, and that's certainly something that I can advocate for. And I guess, I guess for me, it's about understanding whether this actual process, because it's almost like trying to reinvent the wheel, if you like, will actually provide that opportunity to give, grassroots individuals, communities a voice where it matters. Because, again, in previous situations, it hasn't necessarily been the case, and these sorts of opportunities that come about provide great support for the elite, if you like, but not necessarily those on the ground in communities. So if I can be convinced that this is exactly what it is going to do, then I may get behind and support it. But until then, I will probably remain sceptical.
Well, you're in Sydney next week. You can come and check out my renovations and I'll try and convince you. In the meantime, I know that you know Karen Little, who I had in the program last week, an Indigenous woman who hails from Alice Springs, from your neck of the woods, from a big and successful family there. She's been pre-selected number 3 on the Senate spot for the South Australian Liberals. She's a good chance, therefore, to enter the Senate at the next election. Your impressions of her and her background and experience and what it might bring to politics?
She has so much wonderful, valuable knowledge and common sense to bring to Parliament. She knows about the issues on the ground. She's grown up understanding it, and she's worked tirelessly to address a lot of those issues. So I'm very pleased that she's been pre-selected, and it's wonderful to see more Indigenous conservative voices being brought into the fold, if you like. We need more.
Well done. Thanks, Jacinta. We certainly do need more. We need one more from Alice Springs, and you're looking at her. Thanks for joining us again, Jacinta Price. Always good to catch up.